You would never drill for uranium in the lawn of the White House.
Welcome back to another episode of Searchlight Report, a podcast from South Dakota Searchlight. I'm Megan O'Brien, and our podcast brings you up to date on policy and politics in the Mount Rushmore state. South Dakota's Governor Larry Roden is dipping into the state's future fund to create the South Dakota Defense Institute and bring a gunsmithing program to the state. That comes just months after he announced national security would become the state's next big industry. It also comes amid his campaign to keep his job. In Roden's second debate, with 3 other Republican candidates seeking the nomination for governor, they talked education, agriculture, and taxes. But first, you just heard from Taylor Gunhammer. He's an Oglala Lakota community organizer and one of dozens of people and organizations who have stalled a proposal to explore for uranium in the southern Black Hills. Many are concerned about harming historic sites, water quality, and cultural resources, including ancient Native American rock art in a nearby canyon. The state's Board of Minerals and Environment will conduct a hearing in May to determine the project's fate.
Well, it's under the administrative rules, isn't it?
At a motions hearing in January,
This is Steve Blair with the department. I believe you would file according to the normal filing and service rules.
concern about the land's cultural significance and the drilling's potential environmental impact caused a tense exchange that led a board member, Bob Morris, to lash out.
If the board shows up to their job, then they'll do it.
Your goal in life is to be a jerk.
What is yours?
Next thing I want to point
The
out.
comment was directed at Gunhammer. He did not appreciate Morris's accusation.
Oh, it was just profoundly unprofessional.
The project area is culturally and spiritually important to Indigenous groups, he says. Activists say drilling there could disrupt important ceremonies and disturb archaeologically significant sites. The drilling is planned above Craven Canyon, as close as 500 feet to the rim. The canyon walls are lined with ancient Native American petroglyphs.
It predates our people. It was like one of the first spots that in our creation stories and in our history that it was always there.
That's Dwayne Tubles. He's Oglala Lakota and a leader with Black Hills Clean Water Alliance. His group, along with more than 40 other people and organizations, have raised formal concerns about the project with the state board. But the company wanting to drill in search of uranium says it's followed all the necessary steps. Clean Nuclear Energy Corporation is part of the Canadian company Nexus Uranium. In early 2024, it asked the state of South Dakota for permission to explore for uranium near Craven Canyon. Jeremy Poirier is the CEO of Nexus. He knew the project would raise community concerns.
But we thought the benefits to the people in that area, the state, we can talk about it and we could explain it and have conversation.
He didn't expect the permitting process to take more than 2 years. Nexus has rights on about 10 square miles of land along the southern edge of the Black Hills. The drilling project, called CORD, is on a mix of federal and state land in that area. The upcoming hearing is about the state land. The U.S. Forest Service is considering the drilling plan on federal land. Nexus plans to drill holes up to 700 feet deep, and the company would be required to restore the drill sites to a natural condition once the exploration's complete. The rock art in the canyon is thought to be about 7,000 years old. Tubles with the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance says the canyon is vulnerable.
Like the main concern that would come to my mind right away is that whenever they start drilling and like on top of the canyon, then it's going to affect the soundscape and it's going to cause like an internal vibration where that drilling may possibly cause the pictographs on the canyon, the petroglyphs, to pretty much shale off the canyon.
Other opponents worry that drilling in the area could disrupt holes left from past exploration projects, leaving underground water deposits, known as aquifers, vulnerable to possible contamination. Lilia Starding is the executive director of the Black Hills Clean Water Alliance.
All our waterways, our health, wildlife, agricultural activities, tourism, outdoor recreation, are all things that are being impacted by the mining rush.
Interest in uranium exploration and mining has risen recently because uranium is used to make nuclear power. Nuclear energy could help meet the growing electricity demands of data centers that handle the computing needs of artificial intelligence. The state board can deny a permit for multiple reasons, including a negative impact on historical, archaeological, or recreational aspects of an area that outweigh the benefits of the exploration. The board can also deny the permit if it will negatively affect the productivity of aquifers. The permit hearing was initially scheduled for this week, but was postponed to May 18th through May 22nd at the Civic Center in Hot Springs.
I'm declaring that national security is South Dakota's next big industry. This will be the major focus of my economic development efforts. National security creates major opportunities for South Dakota, and we need to seize them.
That's Republican Governor Larry Roden speaking at the State of the State address from January, kicking off this year's legislative session. Last week, Roden announced he'll use $5 million to create and fund the South Dakota Defense Institute. That money is coming from the Future Fund, a pool of fees paid by employers that's under the governor's exclusive control. Bill Even is the commissioner of the governor's Office of Economic Development.
That money will be used in conjunction with Elevate Rapid City to stand up the team, as the governor mentioned in his remarks this morning. We got 3 people identified initially that are going to stand this team up. We're going to spend the next 3 to 6 months getting that team up and established, and you'll hear more from that as it gets going. Ultimately, this will turn into the base that can attract then not only innovators, but also then additional federal contracting, and we're looking to get the ball rolling. So this is the momentum that gets that flywheel going.
The institute will be in a building that Elevate Rapid City, a local economic development group, plans to acquire. The state will provide $1 million from the Future Fund to help with that.
It's also going to be working very closely with the universities and the tech schools and the existing ecosystem of defense contractors. It's critically important that we are prepared to welcome that industry here and those companies here, and then build that network out.
Last year, Roden established the Governor's Resilience and Infrastructure Task Force, also known as GRIT.
That was the first step. This is the second and third pillar of the step to make national defense, to focus on that and the coordinating effort of bringing industry and education and government officials together to work to bring South Dakota into the game as far as national defense. We've already got a number of businesses in South Dakota that have kind of happened at random. We're going to be a lot more coordinated and a lot more structured at providing people infrastructure and the ability and the communication to get together. But
Roden also announced this week that he'll pull another $4 million from the Future Fund as an award to Western Dakota Technical College in Rapid City. That money will help move the equipment, faculty, and curriculum of the Colorado School of Trades, which operates solely as a gunsmithing school, to Western Dakota Tech. The president of Colorado School of Trades says that the state's firearm regulations are, quote, starting to impede what firearms dealers and firearms manufacturers can do. It's starting to impact the educational processes, too, he says. He believes South Dakota is better suited to support the gunsmithing program at a higher level.
Hi, I'm Seth Tupper, editor at South Dakota Searchlight. If you want to know more about what questions will be on the ballot or keep up with the candidates for state and federal elections, we've got the coverage you'll need this election season. Our reach goes from East River to West River with journalists in Sioux Falls, Pierre, and Rapid City. You can check out our election coverage on our website, southdakotasearchlight.com, and subscribe to our free newsletter at southdakotasearchlight.com/subscribe.
A committee of South Dakota lawmakers approved a compensation package for the state's investment manager, but some lawmakers expressed concerns about the state's investment returns. The South Dakota Investment Council handles more than $20 billion in assets. Those assets fund the retirement system for public employees and also support the state budget, including healthcare and education trust funds. Its returns for the retirement system have been below a benchmark for the last 3 years. But the man who oversees the council will receive an inflationary pay increase and a bonus potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That could push his total pay beyond $1 million during the next fiscal year. Investment officer Matt Clark says the recent underperformance is part of a plan. He's been wary of investing in massive tech companies and artificial intelligence. He compares it to the dot-com bubble of the late 90s.
We became defensive about the internet stocks, at least a couple years early and missed a lot of the bubble on the going up. But then we sidestepped a lot of the pain on the way down.
His current base salary is more than $640,000. 12 members of the Legislative Executive Board voted to approve a 1.4% increase and an incentive bonus for the upcoming fiscal year. 3 members voted no. That brings his base salary to a little more than $656,000 starting July 1st. The incentive bonus can be up to 200% of his salary, but usually averages 80%. It's determined after the performance of the State Retirement System Fund is audited. House Majority Leader Scott Odenbach of Spearfish voted against approving Clark's new compensation package.
Is that the wisest way forward? Can we, as the policymakers, answer to those who are looking to us to say, are you doing your job to make sure we're getting the returns?
Last fall, Clark received a bonus worth 19% of his base salary, about $125,000 for the performance in fiscal year 2025. Combined with his salary from fiscal year 2025, he made more than $765,000. The Investment Council follows the capital markets benchmark to compare returns. Last year, the benchmark reflected a 12.5% return, while the State Retirement System Fund had a 5.5% return. The 4 Republicans vying for the Republican nomination for governor met for a second televised debate this week, aired by South Dakota Public Broadcasting in partnership with South Dakota Newswatch. Governor Larry Roden took over in January 2025 after his predecessor, Kristi Noem, left to take a job at the National Department of Homeland Security.
You're going to hear a lot of talk tonight about plans. We've delivered results.
During this year's legislative session, Roden signed tax bills into law that he says contribute to the largest property tax cut in state history. One new law allows the statewide sales tax rate to increase from 4.2% to 4.5% next year, as lawmakers scheduled it to do when they temporarily lowered the rate in 2022. The new law will capture an estimated $114 million in revenue from the increase and use it to reduce homeowner property taxes. Another new law gives counties their first ever option to impose up to a 0.5% sales tax, with proceeds required to be used for homeowner property tax credits. Speaker of the House John Hanson of Del Rapids worked with Roden on those bills after he tried to keep the sales tax rate at 4.2%.
When the temporary tax cut was supposed to trigger and go away, and that money was going to flow into the state of South Dakota, we had a choice to make. And the choice was either use that money to grow government and grow bureaucracy or a different path. And I led down a different path.
Roden also signed a plan into law that allows cities to leverage an additional temporary sales tax to pay for special projects, if approved by 60% of a city's voters. Hanson voted against that. U.S. Representative Dusty Johnson says the property tax plans aren't a true tax cut because they rely on higher sales taxes. He says passing 3 new laws that authorize higher sales taxes was too much.
Affordability is a major problem in this state, and not just for renters or for people who don't own homes, but certainly for them. Their affordability problem got a whole lot worse.
Aberdeen businessman Toby Doden says part of the plan for his administration is to phase out property taxes entirely. He says he'll do that by cutting spending, eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, and growing the economy.
We are going to have a strong South Dakota economy, and it will turn out annual budget surpluses large enough to, yes, phase out and eliminate property taxes for the residents of South Dakota.
Candidates also answered a question about the rising costs for farmers and ranchers in the state. Input costs are hitting producers hard, Johnson says.
And if we think that tools and grain bins and fencing are expensive now, just wait until those additional sales taxes hit.
Rodin says he's helped grow markets for producers by supporting international trade missions, including recent missions to Mexico and Japan.
And we've met with great success, and we've introduced South Dakota to the world.
Hansen says he was, quote, on the front lines while an Iowa pipeline company tried and failed to run a pipeline through farm and ranch land using the legal power of eminent domain. He wants to support producers by moving the State Department of Agriculture back to a standalone department.
And there's one thing that I think was a mistake in the past that I would undo on my first day as governor, and that is combining the South Dakota Department of Agriculture with the South Dakota Department of Natural Resources.
Doden agrees that input costs are hurting South Dakota's farmers and ranchers.
I am committed to phasing out property taxes as part of my affordability plan. That's not just for single-family homeowners. That's also for farmers and ranchers.
On the education front, Johnson says he was in support of measures from Mississippi that boosted reading scores. Among other things, the plan established a gatekeeping test that third graders needed to pass before starting fourth grade.
And I know the holding back third graders created a lot of consternation in Mississippi. But if you are promoting third graders into fourth grade who can't read, you're not doing them any favors.
Rodin says the state has been moving away from an Obama-backed education initiative known as Common Core. Rodin has been focused on reforming education standards.
We're getting away from Common Core and moving to common sense.
Hansen would create publicly funded education grants.
And whether that's in one of our public schools, or whether that's a non-public school or home schools, parents ought to have the freedom and the financial freedom to choose the best education option for their kid.
South Dakota's teachers have some of the lowest pay in the nation. Doden says too much of the state's education budget has gone to bureaucrats and administrators, not teachers.
Our teachers need to get paid more money.
There's currently one certified Democratic candidate. Dan Allers is a former state legislator and executive director of the state Democratic Party. The primary election is June 2nd. The winner in the four-way Republican primary will need at least 35% of the voters' support to earn the Republican nomination and appear on November's general election ballot. Failing that, the top two candidates will advance to a runoff 8 weeks after the primary. For more from the debate, check out Joshua Heyer's reporting at SouthDakotaSearchlight.com. That's all we have for this week on Searchlight Report. The podcast is based on reporting by South Dakota Searchlight staff, editor Seth Tupper, senior reporter John Holt, and reporters Joshua Heyer, Mackenzie Huber, and me. I write the scripts and produce the audio with editing by Seth Tupper. Audio this week came from recordings by South Dakota Searchlight and South Dakota Public Broadcasting. South Dakota Searchlight is part of States Newsroom, the nation's largest nonprofit news organization. Until next time, I'm South Dakota Searchlight's Megan O'Brien with the Searchlight Report.